Good morning, world. Cece here. Did you know that you cannot fully feel gratitude and rage at the same time? Now, before somebody jumps in and says, "Oh, yes, you can," let me explain. You can absolutely switch between emotions quickly. In fact, people do it all day long. One minute you're grateful, the next you're irritated in traffic. Then you're laughing at something online and switch to being stressed about bills. Human beings bounce emotionally all over the place. And honestly, if you think about it, babies do this naturally all the time. An infant can go from tears to screaming to frustration to laughing and giggling almost instantly. One moment they're devastated, and the next moment they're completely okay again. Why? Well, because they don't sit there and mentally replay the pain. They feel that emotion, and then they move through it. Adults, we're a little different. We revisit it. We replay it. We tell our friends about it. We relive it emotionally. We think about what happened, what somebody said, what they should have done, how unfair it felt, over and over again. And eventually, you heard me say this, the body starts remembering those emotions too. That's why people can stay emotionally stuck in anger, resentment, grief, bitterness, long after the original moment has passed. Not because the event is still happening, but because the mind keeps returning to it. Because that's where you're putting your attention, and it thinks, again, it's doing you a favor. And that's where this becomes really important. It's very hard to fully appreciate your life while constantly emotionally feeling anger, resentment, or bitterness. Those emotional states pull your mind and body in completely different directions. And another important factor, because a lot of people misunderstand what gratitude actually means. What it doesn't mean is pretending life is perfect, or ignoring problems, or acting like pain doesn't exist, or trying to force yourself to be positive all the time. It's not about that. It's really just about wisdom. That's avoidance. Life is still going to be life, right? People will disappoint you, things will break, relationships will hurt, we lose people, we lose pets, we lose time. And you're going to make mistakes. That's all part of being human. But what we repeatedly focus on eventually shapes our emotional state. And that matters more than most people realize, because your body responds differently to gratitude than it does to resentment. That's why some people become emotionally attached to outrage. Not because they're bad people, but because certain emotional states become familiar over time. And the chemicals released when you have stress and anger and conflict and frustration. And eventually, the body starts expecting those feelings regularly. Say that 3 times fast. You heard me talk about this before. Even when they're hurting us. And this is where gratitude becomes incredibly, incredibly powerful. Not because gratitude magically erases pain, but because gratitude changes what your mind keeps returning to. And that's huge. Because whatever we repeatedly rehearse emotionally, eventually starts feeling normal. And if all your focus constantly goes towards anger and division and resentment and outrage and fear and comparison, eventually your emotional world starts living there too. And you may not even realize it's happening. I think this is the one reason why nature feels so healing to people. A beautiful sunset, rain on the roof, birds outside, a quiet lake, children laughing, a dog excited to see you. These moments gently pull us back into the present moment, back into appreciation. And appreciation changes us. It's not instant, except for that moment. It's not magically, it's gradually. And honestly, this reminds me again of one of the most powerful books I've ever read years ago. Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl. I do believe I've spoke about him previously. Frankl survived the Holocaust, and despite enduring horrors most of us can't even imagine, he still believed human beings could choose meaning, perspective, and inner freedom. Not because suffering didn't exist, but because he realized even in terrible circumstances, people still have the ability to choose what they mentally hold on to. And to me, that is profound. And honestly, when I think of my life, when it's overwhelming sometimes, I think about that. He's my go-to. And again, I'm not trying to minimize my struggles or yours, but to remember how powerful perspective really is. Because there will always be reasons to feel angry or frustrated or bitter, discouraged. Always. But you know what else? There are also reasons to feel grateful and hopeful and connected and appreciative and alive. And in whichever emotional state we repeatedly feed, that's the one that gets stronger. Now again, please don't think I'm telling you to suppress your emotions. If something hurts, feel it. If something frustrates you, acknowledge it. If you need to grieve, grieve. But don't build your home there. That's the difference. Because some people visit pain, and some people unknowingly move into it permanently. And after a while, they stop noticing the beauty completely. Everything becomes negative or threatening or exhausting or irritating. And eventually, conflicts start feeling normal. And that is not peace. That's an emotional habit. And maybe one of the healthiest things we can learn is how to gently redirect our focus. Not forcefully, not by denying reality, not by pretending life is perfect. Just slowly choosing appreciation over bitterness, perspective over rage, peace over emotional addiction. Because gratitude and rage cannot fully occupy the same emotional space for very long. One opens you up emotionally, the other slowly closes you down. And the beautiful part is, you don't have to transform overnight. You don't have to become endlessly happy. You just have to stop feeding the emotions that's slowly stealing your peace. So, maybe today, that simply starts by noticing one good thing that still exists in your life. And don't say nothing. There's a ton if we look for it. Because even in the middle of chaos, because peace is really found by controlling the entire world around you. More often, it's found in learning what you repeatedly return your mind to. So as always, take care of your mind, and the rest has a better chance of falling into place. Until next time, this is Cece. This is Cece Talks Live, real talk, real life.